wait for Scott. While Scott's seating himself, welcome everybody to the August 31st, 2015 special meeting of the Sewer Authority Midcoastside. Let's have the call to order first and the roll call.
Vice Chair Reddick.
Here.
Director Kowalczyk.
Here.
Chair Lohman.
Here.
Dr. Boyd.
Here.
Dr. Warren.
Present.
Director Hart.
Here. Let's have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's take additional public comment. If there's any public who wishes to speak on a subject not on the agenda, I see none. We're going to do a slight reordering to do the open session items first so we can release staff and filming person. So we're going to jump down to the consent agenda, which does not exist, so that's fast. And let's go to item 5, the recycled water update.
The Recycled Water Committee met a week ago, and we have some success to report. First of all, we have now signed principles of agreement. Principal agreements were signed by all parties that are part of the agreement. We asked actually the City of Half Moon Bay to consider adopting a resolution, supporting resolution, and also sign the agreement. Granada Sanitary District already approved
What was that name?
Granada Community Services District already approved the principles of agreement as well, and can also sign. That said, I think the meeting went very well. I'm going to hand this over to the committee. Maybe they can report a little more. What I think is most important that came out of the committee meeting was consideration to recommend Coastside County Water District to be the lead agency for the CEQA permitting process. So we're hoping that find support from the SAM board to support Coastside County Water District as a lead agency for the CEQA permitting.
So that means it's going to be wrapped together as a single thing for both their part and our part? For CEQA.
For CEQA, yes. And maybe if the committee wants to continue with the report, filling in anything that I didn't mention. Rick, Scott.
I didn't see the committee meeting on PCT scheduled. Did you get TV coverage?
Yeah, no, we weren't able to get PCTV due to 2 other meetings that they had to record that night. What we were able to do was record it ourselves. So you will not be able to find a record on PCTV website, but we have a record available for anyone who wants to see it. We can make a copy available.
Yeah, you just put it on DVD for me.
Yes.
I'd like to also see it.
Okay.
And you ought to inquire, see if PCT will play it if you send them a DVD.
We can talk to Justin about this as well, yeah.
But certainly for any directors that want it, if you can make DVDs for us.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a record available, and we heard 2 requests, and just for the public, it is available. If you need a copy, please let us know.
Thanks. Could you do one for me and put Sharknado as the second feature on the B-side?
We make a request that we don't burn DVDs, and we just give to them on the USB drive so they can be fast and we can be modern. That's my desire for us to not do things the old way.
Okay.
And I don't even want one because I was
I just had some quick other comments. We were actually after we would would like an official vote tonight, just to make it official that we want CCWD to do the sequel work.
So moved.
The additional thoughts on that were that they have a huge preponderance of the work. It's been stated that putting a box out here behind the thing will probably end up being a neg deck. But we want to do it all in one chunk, just because we don't want to give anybody a shot at saying, hey, wait a minute, it looks like you're piecemealing, and anything might just waste a little bit of time. We just don't want that to happen. There's another piece, the golf course will be doing some significant dredging probably. It's not critical for their timeline, but they will want to do the dredging, and they will, might as well throw that into the whole sequel thing too. We start digging huge amounts of dirt out of old ponds and stuff like that.
So that would be in the same sequence as
In the same sequence,
is
one big package. They may not do the actual work right away if time becomes critical. But it just seemed like the thing to do.
So it did, and I think we want CCWD to be the lead agency for sequel submittals, whether or not it's one package or one coordinated effort. I want them to have that latitude, because it may make sense for the OCP part to be with it, but not with it, you follow what I'm saying? Because there's a separate entity, it's a private agency, private entity.
Well, GCS.
I like the phrase coordinated effort, because that really describes what we were all, I think everybody was contemplating.
Yeah.
We've each got our part to do, it all needs to be coordinated. One of the things that we all agreed on was, once we have enough design in place that we can then start looking at grant applications, right at that moment is when we should go talk to Coastal and other regulators about, okay, we have it, this is not just hand waving, we now have some design on paper, and start talking to them, and then avoid the surprises, get their feedback, make adjustments to the plan as early as we can, without taking them just the hand wavy stuff. And we also all agreed that none of the three parties intends to wait around for grant money before we start doing the design work. Because we all agree that really to get the grants, you've got to have some design work already in place. That was something I was concerned about in terms of what kind of things would be the long pole on this. And grants could take quite a while. Some of the deadlines aren't even until later this year for some of the grants that we're contemplating. So everybody's prepared to get some skin in the game, get some stuff drawn up. We have, I understand, we've got a fair bit of information about the customer's needs in terms of supply and quality, and time demand curves, both for time of day and time of year. I understand Keishan's been working with that. I don't know if you have it in a form that we can distribute, but he's got a Gantt chart of our portion of the project, and we pass that around to provide some encouragement to our colleagues to do something similar, so we can start to line these things up side by side and find the points of interdependency.
We have it actually in electronic form, we can
Perfect.
just zap it on the
So
projector real quick.
It's a tentative
I
schedule.
commend that to you. I do think our portion of this is fairly straightforward to contemplate. Keishan has assembled this into something that's fairly consumable, and then we take that and we take that and encourage our partners to come up with something very similar, so we can find any interdependencies that make us want to move something earlier in the schedule.
Aren't some of the potential grant sources favoring shovel-ready stuff, so it makes sense to move along?
Absolutely.
while we try grants?
My only real concern is that despite everybody being gung-ho, our next meeting is in October. I think there's good reason for that. The city, not the city, CCWD has a meeting early in September. They really can't do a whole lot until they have their meeting, and then that kicks off some activity. We've got our RFP that's in process. That's got to complete. We're going to talk about that some tonight. Everybody's got some pieces to do. So October really probably is the right time, but when we all get together in October, we all intend to bring something substantial to the table to allow us to take it to the next step.
Debbie,
So, was there any discussion of funding of sequel?
We mentioned that we had some money set aside for some work that we don't anticipate needing to do. So one of the things we wanted to discuss tonight was what's the sense of the board on can we turn some of that to our portion of CEQA? CCWD didn't seem too concerned about their portion funded, and they've got probably the biggest part aside from things like the dredging.
Has
No.
OCP offered to advance any funds, or?
There was nothing specific on that.
They didn't offer, we didn't ask.
And to some degree, it's not Sam's business, right? We can probably ask, it's probably not impertinent to ask, but
I think
I'm just
lead-
wondering if it came up at.
I think
It
the lead
didn't- it
agency
didn't
could
come-
ask.
Hmm?
I think that's something CCWD could do as they
Yeah.
lead the effort.
Right.
And we could bring it up.
We did ask that in the interim, the agency or the parties have their staff meet to keep this thing moving, to keep that drumbeat going. So perhaps that can come up at the next meeting.
Yes, and to the money part, Debbie, Sam budgeted and asked for $150,000 from the member agencies for CEQA work specifically. And, I mean, we're looking at this right now and don't believe that Sam needs $150,000 for CEQA work. So we're hoping that this money can essentially be repurposed. This is something that we're gonna bring up once we bring forward the results of the proposals that we asked for from the firms.
That's kind of what I was getting at, so thank you for answering my question. One other question is, are agency staff involved in the recycled water committee meetings, or are they meeting separately?
Well, there has been a staff meeting between actually Ocean Colony Partners and Coastside County Water District, who now is essentially bringing Kennedy Jenks to their meeting. And Sam participated in this meeting between OCP and Coastside County Water District as well.
So the meeting last Wednesday night had staff and management from all parties, I believe.
From all parties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to have staff at the regular
Mhm.
recycled water.
Oh, yeah, and they were all here.
Yeah, and Scott said earlier, one of my biggest fears was, if you have monthly or bi-monthly meetings, nothing's ever gonna get done. So I think everybody at that meeting said, the staff is gonna take over now, they're gonna have, constant communications. We don't want nothing to happen until the next month.
So
We
you're
just
saying,
lose time all
you're
over
saying
the
the
place.
staff are gonna be in touch, but
Yes.
not necessarily the elected.
On a daily and weekly basis, yeah. But we don't have to have the reason we switched to October, that's the next official recycled water meeting.
Where there's
But that
representatives of all
certainly
agencies.
doesn't mean nothing's gonna happen until October.
So a lot of
So,
staff work, and then,
yes.
we'll get together and have cookies in October to
Just like-
celebrate how far along we are. Well, Rick, you had raised the concern about potential rate impact.
Oh, so just from a financial perspective, I want to make sure and be very clear that we are tracking all the financial commitments we make, and that we have to account for a full financial recovery, and we have to be thoughtful about ensuring that there's not a gift of public funds or a subsidization of the project that will cross a lot of lines that we can't cross. So I want to be very careful about that. And
Right.
So obviously willing to support the project to a large degree, but we cannot commit public funds to, for example, there's a private entity on the other end, the
Mhm.
customer, right?
Right.
And so we can't subsidize that.
Exactly.
So we have to be thoughtful about that in the process. So we need to track our resources, and that has to be part of the recovery model.
Well, and not just track, I mean, shouldn't there be an agreement, a funding agreement, where everybody,
Of course.
commits to sort of their share?
Sure, and
If
that-
we need to amend that, we can bring it back and amend it, but that there's some,
That's a-
protocol, so we're not just, doing it informally at every meeting.
Well,
Right.
this board, going all the way back to 2008, that has been
Scott, what were you
a
gonna
core
say?
part of it.
Scott?
It's actual board policy. We actually took a vote on it sometime back, and it's ratified in the principles of understanding that we have. We asserted it very carefully there. And I don't know a board member here who's not interested in, watching this and minding this very carefully, because we do, Rick's exactly right. We need to track every penny that goes into this, it's okay to put up, to advance some front money as long as that's paid back, because it's pretty clear who is benefited quite directly by this project, and so we can't turn the assets of our ratepayers in the direction of a single party. Now, ultimately, we do hope to go beyond the single party, but for the moment, this phase one project is very clearly focused on one client.
Where are we with a formal agreement, not just the principles of agreement, but actual legalese contract?
We didn't we didn't take any steps on that.
But is that plan that
Like an
everybody
MOU?
recognizes that we have to do that before we get too much further along?
So one of the things that's got to happen, Keishan's got a lot of information now about from Ocean Colony about the water needs, both the quality and quantity, and that's going to feed directly into some of the design work about exactly what this plant here on our site has to be, both in terms of the kind of treatment train and the size of that thing, its expandability, those kind of questions. That then goes to the number of what this is going to cost to finance on an ongoing basis. That feeds into CCWD's numbers, which feeds into Ocean Colony's numbers, and they've set a goal. They've told us pretty clearly they've got an upper bound on how much debt service they can do in a year, and until we're sure we've got all that lined up, there's no go on the project.
I will say that I think part of our readiness,
Mm.
and in terms of positioning ourselves for grants, is also having funding commitments in place,
Mhm.
firm funding commitments.
Oh, absolutely.
Not informal, arrangements.
Oh no, we've got to get there, but Bruce has made it really clear he can't make a commitment until he sees the actual numbers. So we've all got some design work to do. We now have a whole lot of good information to be able to do our work on, and that's all got to come together pretty much right at the same time. If we're going to proceed, then we go to the grants, and then we've got everything that we need to be able to do that.
Leonard?
I came across an article, I think it was back in like June, San Mateo Daily Journal about Redwood City's recycling. And they actually, at some location in the city, essentially have a spigot, and anybody in the city can come up with up to like
100 gallons, that's one I forwarded.
people are coming up with like 55-gallon drums and filling them up to use for their gardening. And so I'm wondering if we ought to look at that, run a pipe down the road there to the other end of
Definitely
the
a
property.
phase two. There's lots of stuff in phase two. We just don't want to confuse phase one at this point. We just need to get phase one done, show that it works, show that it's economically
Let's
feasible.
tack that kind of thing onto our wish list of
Yeah.
nice to
I think it's a
haves.
great idea. We just need
There are two new initiatives. There's a former Brown administration official who's developed a template for another water bond done by initiatives about being put on the ballot by the legislature.
Mhm.
We don't have any hard numbers about that, but recycled water is in the mix. And Senator Pavley also has a new bill dealing with water resiliency and self-sufficiency that also has categories for recycled water. No numbers attached to it. Don't know if it's coming from Prop 1, whether it's, some other financial vehicle is in the works, but everybody seems to be getting on board with funding recycled water. And so the pot seems to be in the process of growing.
Okay, so I think we're
Filling.
pretty much ready to wrap here. We have a motion from what?
Just on the timeline, so I just want to reiterate that the board has not set a timeline and committed to a delivery date. I think there's some dates thrown out in the press of March next year as a delivery date, and stated as the SAM goal, that we have not discussed nor have we selected a goal, and I think project planning will drive that. I don't think we as a board sit here and guesstimate what it should be or set a hard commitment. I think we should do project planning, and when that comes to the surface, we can figure out what the right smart delivery date is for the project. But to be clear, we haven't done that, and so those dates are pretty arbitrary, but they're kind of being put forth as pretty firm, but they're not.
So it's kind of like when my boss asked me when something's going to be done, it'll be done when it's done.
Keishan's, what's actually on the screen right now is Keishan's current estimate of if everything goes kind of according to plan, January of 2017 is when our portion could be ready, and that includes the environmental review and quite a bit more. This anticipates, unlike the March estimate from last time, this anticipates going
I think this is
everyone
an excellent
together
stake
on
in the
CEQA.
ground. I think it's a
Right.
sensible stake in the ground.
Right, the other one was if we pursued it to put the box on the site and let everybody else
The
finish
other
up
one was
their
what we
part.
never discussed.
Yeah.
It was just in the presentation to us.
Yep, that's right.
And the other one was reported by the Half Moon Bay Review based on a conversation with me, which was a totally absurd interpretation of what I said. So,
I'm shocked.
so we are not planning our thing around what the Half Moon Bay Review.
We have
Okay.
Anyone in the audience from the review to cover the meeting for
That's
the
good.
public? No? Okay.
So we have a motion.
I do have one question though. With CCWD, with this board probably about to approve CCWD for doing all the CEQA, do we still have the last word with our picking our engineer to design
Yes.
our project?
Yes.
So,
Our engineer, our technology choice.
and again, their CEQA worth, we immediately have our critical path item, which is get a design, first of all, an understanding about how detailed our design has to be, talking to the agencies, and then creating those designs, which will then launch CEQA and launch the grant.
I would like to think that, given the scope and scale of our portion of it, we should be first in terms of having everything the CCWD that they need for CEQA from our perspective.
Isn't it typically like 30 to 35% design to move forward? with
That's what
CEQA?
we asked that, CCWD specifically asked these agencies, what do you need? Is there is it an E5 drawing, a 35% drawing? What is the words? And tell us as soon as you can, because then we'll create those drawings as soon as possible.
That's my experience, is 30 to 35,
Mm-hmm.
minimum 30.
Yeah.
We had a motion to, I don't know, how would you phrase that? Appoint CCWD as the.
It's probably what the staff recommendation is. Let's see how the staff recommendation reads. Yeah, I guess the recommendation is that CCWD be the lead agency for CEQA permitting process, so that's my motion.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Second, any further discussion? None, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, there you go. Item 2, which is item 6, and the preparation of sand for the wet weather season.
So this is probably one of the more important items that the board has heard this summer. In the past 2 weeks, we learned much more about the current weather pattern that is developing, that is interpreted as producing, I guess, an El Nino year this winter, with potentially record rainfalls. We had a rain event this past winter, which was one of these Pineapple Express hitting pretty much directly the Bay Area. That was December 15, I believe. And we've seen the limits of our system during this storm. So I believe that it is very important for SAM to prepare right now for a above average rainfall season. And Kishan has done some great work. I wanted to thank him. Been doing double duty today, representing us at the sea level rise study, plus preparing for tonight's meeting. And Gabe actually helped over the weekend as well. So I want to really thank SAM staff for putting this together. So after Kishan is done with his presentation, I don't want to take too much away from it, but what we're going to ask for is essentially to bring blue boxes back this winter, because last winter's storm essentially filled the system up to the brim.
Both facilities?
Both facilities, yes. And
Montero was a foot from overflow, and we had 300,000 gallons sitting in our.
Wow,
It-
it can't be, we only have 205.
It has 200,000 gallons, right?
I thought the Granada facility was like half full or so.
No.
It was,
When I called in,
Gabe,
they said, by the way.
you
it's
saw
full.
how full it was. I heard it was actually almost overflowing at the.
It was, I went and
Hotel.
opened a manhole at the lowest place where usually overflows, and it was about 12 inches to overflow.
like
At-
at Barada and.
At
Magellan.
RV Park on Highway 1, and also on, I guess it's by, what is the name of the street?
The lowest manhole is the one in the
There is-
system is Magellan and Barada, which is
There
where
is
the
two,
overflows
actually,
were.
the one that is, first of all, start is the one at the RV park, in front of the RV park. And that one was, like I'm saying, about 12 inches, and raining is still coming. Which means that the tanks at, underground tanks at Portola, they were at the same level. Because the wet well and those underground tanks, they act as a big wet well because everything is filling up at the same rate.
I would figure you could just open the door in the pump station and look at the wet well, instead of pulling manholes.
No, another coworker went and checked it prior to that, and it was 4 foot, but the wet well level at Portola at that time, it was only 13 foot. When, I guess Kitchen is gonna get all that information on this. The wet well level at Portola went up to 18 or 7 to 18.
And
I've
She
covered a
has all
little
the
bit of it on
information.
my presentation, maybe you could wait for that.
we just actually received a diagram that lets us translate what is the level in the wet well mean to the level into the underground tanks. So we now have a way of correlating it, saying exactly how many gallon are actually in the tank if the wet well is at what level.
Correct.
I'll show you those graphs. and
Okay.
graphs.
So, yeah, maybe the presentation is answering all those questions.
Okay.
Sound effect. That's good. It's writers on the storm.
So we are preparing for the winter storm, El Nino, okay? So in the storm event which took place in December 2014, rain was largely from 6 a.m. on December 11th until the early mornings of December 12th. The rain gauge data indicated Montara had the highest, which was 5.25 inches, coming down to Portela, which is 3.1, and at Sam plant itself, it showed 4.3 inches. The plant flow had a total of 6.67 mgd for 2 days, and with peak load touching about 11 mgd at times, which is roughly equal to 7,600 gallons per minute.
When you say 11 mgd, does that mean equivalent rate if it had gone for 24 hours, it'd be 11?
Yeah, no, it's a peak, as you can see the spike in the treatment plant.
But I mean, is that a flow rate of 11 mgd, or was it actually 11 million gallons in a
No,
short
it's
period?
the flow rate. So on the IPS performance, basically the Montara excuse me, the Montara Walker tank is about 300,000 gallons, which is about 2 to 3 feet lower than the capacity.
Correct.
And on the Portola wet weather flow management station, I guess we don't call it management station, but it's a basin, management basin, sorry. It's about 200,000 gallons. And all the pump stations ran at peak output for more than 36 hours straight to push the flow through to the plant. And just to go by the statistics, in the 8 days between December 11th and 19th, SAM plant flow equaled the flow of the entire month of November 2014. This is what we gathered from the data that we've got. These are all the SCADA graphs that we've got at different pump stations. I won't bore you through these things, but this has formed the basis for our analysis. So we've actually got, starting from 6 o'clock in the morning, we can do any time, which shows how it is rising. You see this level, which is actually the level rising in Portola. See how it's rising? And then it starts falling down. Okay, this is at Montara, but I won't bore you through these things, but just to give you an idea, this is our IPS schematic. So you have the SAM wastewater treatment plant out here, we have 3 pumps out here. This is the Portola pump station, we have 3 pumps there. And the emergency storage capacity is about 200,000 gallons. Montara pump station is 460,000 gallons. Valimar is 6,000 gallons, and Princeton is probably around the same. Now the Portola pump station is the IPS bottleneck, since the Portola pump station capacity is lesser than Montara plus Valimar plus Princeton. You see, it's 200,000, whereas this itself is 460,000 plus 6,000 plus another 6,000. So the Valimar pump station has limited storage capacity, and this cannot be shut down for more than a few minutes during a storm, because the capacity is so small, it's just 6,000 gallons. While Montara pump station has a large storage capacity compared to other IPS facilities. And both Montara and Portola are hydraulically competing. Now SAM has developed a plan to maximize the use of the existing storage capacities during storms to avoid any SSOs. And this plan was very successfully utilized and demonstrated during the December 11th storm. Now let's see what happens on December 11th at between 6 a.m. and 8:15 a.m. The rainfall has started increasing. The Montara and Valimar pumps turn on more often. The Portola pump ramps up to its maximum discharge rate, and it remained there for the next 24 hours. And between 8:15 and 9:30 a.m., that's when we receive the heaviest rainfalls. Valimar pump station is at a risk of getting overwhelmed. So therefore, Montara pump station was shut down. Its emergency storage starting to fill. And the Valimar pump station is given priority, and it ran at a very high rate, which is 2.7 MGD.
Is that because it can't compete with Montara, if they're both running?
No, because the capacity is too small. So we want to shut down Montara. Okay. And also, what happens is, as we go further, we also had to shut down Portola. We had to shut down Portola for some time because it was not ready to take inputs from Montara, Valimar, and Princeton. It was overwhelming. You get what I'm saying?
I don't understand why you
No.
would shut down Portola.
We had to shut down Portola because it had reached its capacity, it was getting close to its full capacity. And therefore, as Montara starts pumping more and more sewage into Portola, it starts rising. So it's coming to its near capacity. So we need to make sure that inputs don't come into Portola. So therefore, we started building up the Montara level.
So you're not saying you shut down Portola,
No,
you're saying you shut down the
can I-
inputs for Portola.
Yeah, what I meant is when you shut down a pump, shut down the inputs, yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I want for, yeah, you get that.
Sorry, it was a miscommunication. Okay. And therefore, on December 11th, between 9:30 and 11:45, the Portola pump station inflow exceeds its pumping capacity. At 6 p.m., the emergency storage tank started to fill in Portola. And at 9 p.m., the storm reached its peak. The Montara storage was almost full, and the Portola storage was 75% full. As of 11:45, it started decreasing, therefore the water level in the wet well and the storage tank slowly started decreasing. Now just to take you back to this design storm statistics, which was done by Corolla way back in 2004 for SAM. This is the very the very sentence where it says 5-year design storm recurrence, which means that this type of storm probability in any 1 year is about 20%. Okay, this is just statistics. And SAM's equipment is all designed for this 5-year recurrence. Now coming back to the storm which took place, the SAM service area received about 2.5 to 3 inches of rainfall within 24 hours. And according to Carollo's 2004 Wet Weather Flow Management Program Facility Plan Update, this corresponds to a design storm with a recurrence interval of 2 years. That means if you go back to the table, it corresponds to 2 years. So the design scenario, as I mentioned earlier, retained by SAM is a 5-year, 6-hour design storm, which corresponds to 2 inches of rainfall over 6 hours. That's what it's capable of, the equipment. And the Montara emergency storage tank started to fill around 8 a.m. This is the same thing what I mentioned earlier. Montara's throughput appeared reduced until 4 p.m. and then it started rising till it reached its maximum around 9:15, and going by the SCADA graphs, we found that it still contained sewage at 7 a.m. the next day. So SAM perfectly utilized the available emergency storage capacity. The system almost got overwhelmed, even though SAM service area was not exposed to the heaviest rainfall. To give you an idea, the neighborhood communities of Pescadero got 9.7 inches. Okay, now we are at the roller coaster ride, ladies and gentlemen. We need to fasten our belts. So we've got the rain, we've got the drought, and we are now in the drought situation, so we're getting ready for rain. So what do? SAM needs to prepare for the El Nino. So a few of the major activities planned include, we would like to rent 21,000 gallon blue tanks, which are also called Baker tanks, at the pump station. About 8 of them, we propose to have 6 at Montara and 2 at Portola. We would like to clean out the wet well at Montara and Portola to remove all the debris. We would like to install transfer switches for pumps to work on manual mode at the pump stations in the event of VFD failures. We do not have those transfer switches, and therefore if there's a VFD failure, then the pump shuts off completely. We cannot operate it. While if we have a transfer switch, then we're able to switch it from the auto mode, from the VFD mode to the manual mode. We would need to stock spare parts for critical equipment, for example, spare VFDs. We would need to set up contract electrician on standby status to perform emergency work as needed. And of course, we're going to complete the IPS. We would like to rent the trash pump at Montara until the redundant pump is available. We would need to keep backup motor at Portola.
But what does that mean, pump motor?
Yes, pump motor. We would need to list manholes which are likely to become submerged and generate a list of those to seal up. We would need to increase the collection line cleaning. Therefore, the current IPS reinforcement phase 3 project addresses most of the deficiencies. The force main section that is leaked earlier will be replaced. Redundancy is being provided at Montara pump station with the addition of 1 new pump. Now, my recommendation is with the existing IPS, in order to make some improvements for more severe events, in the next 5 years, we need to expand the emergency storage capacity. In the next 5 years, of course.
Good thing we bought a lot of land.
Come again?
Good thing we bought a lot of land.
Well, that's a recommendation. I think we can still do something. We have to definitely improve that. So that's it, my presentation.
So there's one thing that jumps out at me that's not on there, but that may be because you're not familiar with the unincorporated Midcoast, and the people in Half Moon Bay don't understand this either. We have third world power in unincorporated Midcoast. Every time the wind blows while it's raining, the power goes out for 8 hours.
Midcoast is third world in so many ways.
And proud of it.
Just joking. Just joking.
So basically, you need to make sure
He
you
left it
have
there.
enough,
Don't make me compare the beauty of the beaches. This is not gonna go well.
we have better weather than half the day. So you need to make sure that you have generators serviced and high confidence that they're gonna run and sufficient fuel storage. Because, you know, if we get a 3-day rain event, you could end up running generators for 24 hours over those 3 days. And the other thing is the Midcoast is at the end of PG&E's list. They will fix outages anywhere in the state before they send anybody. They won't even send anybody here if they're short on crews.
You just gotta know who.
So one
You gotta
item,
know who to call. Sam
one
knows who to
item
call.
that we didn't mention is, we are also, of course, very eager to utilize the new flusher truck. We're actually purchasing a set of nozzles that allows, much better cleaning, taking out roots, etc. So, we don't need authorization for this, but we're gonna let you know that we're purchasing this
At a
set of
price?
3 nozzles.
Got a price tag?
It was below 10,000.
7,000.
7,000.
That sounds good.
Rick, got a comment?
So Keisha, thank you for your presentation.
It was a good one.
I appreciate
Thank you.
it very, very much. Could you please send it around to us as well?
Sure.
Thank you.
And also put it on the website?
Yeah.
That's very
As
good.
far as discussion or authorization to move forward with these plans, do we,
I'm prepared to think about it.
Clement?
I'm sorry, what was it?
As far as what you need from us, as far as critical lead time items, reserving tanks, things like that,
Yes.
what is the plan of approval?
So the plan of approval is, right now, we would like to get the go-ahead for the blue tanks. That's the action that we're asking for. There's a lot that we can do within this list that we don't need authorization. It takes, you know, management internally and figuring out how to get it done. We're gonna look at, for example, the VFD bypass. We're gonna need quotes from that if those come if those come back higher than authorization. Then if we need authorization, we will see that at the September 28th meeting.
Have you had 6 tanks at Montero? I thought there were 4 there and 2 at Portola. You got land for 6?
We originally started with 4, but the last year we were able to place 6 at Portola. But
Montara.
yeah, the Montara. The only thing that I would like to bring up is that due to the IPS work at Ballamar, there might be a little bit of a limited room in there if the company who is working on the section of the IPS might need to place utilities or
Yeah, we have to
stuff in
consider
there.
placement so that we can still get the pump in and out.
Yeah, so because we were with 6, we were covering a pretty good area of Montara property
I
there.
guess I don't understand the Valamar connection because Valamar is further down, right?
It's the purchase.
It's actually gonna connect Ballamar to Montara, the IPS section, the new repair that is gonna be.
Oh, so the pipe runs from Valamar back to Montero? I thought it ran.
From Montara through Ballamar, and at Ballamar they connect, Ballamar joint or connect at the same pipe system.
So it's the-
I'll have to go look at it.
At Ballamar, after Ballamar, both stations share the same pipe.
And that's the pipe that's being worked
The,
on.
from Ballamar to
Okay.
Montara is the one
Yes.
that's gonna be replaced.
Plus, we're gonna add a pump to the Montero station, and that's why we're thinking about placing the blue tanks in a manner that we can still access, I guess what is it called, the wet well, the pump house, to lower the pump. So we need to have access to all this,
Yeah.
heavy cranes.
You know, another possibility that is probably a little more complicated, and I'm not at all thrilled with it for a whole bunch of reasons, but, you know, if push really comes to shove, you can probably put some on our property where the underground facility is.
Well, I'm wondering wondering how you would hydraulically
Right,
connect
that's the
those.
difficulty. But, you know, if we absolutely had to, there's probably some way to pull it off.
Can be sucked up. I say, it can even be pulled up.
But
Yeah.
the only way is,
30 feet up, I think.
the only way is to pump from those underground tanks into the blue tanks.
Well, how does it work now at Portola, because they're above the level of the wet well?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we have submersible pumps in the Portola wet well, and we pump from the Portola wet well into those blue tanks.
Right. So the total capacity of what you're proposing is what?
So 21,000,
It's about 20,000 of each gallons, 20,000
That was my
gallons.
question, was, what is the total? I mean,
About 120 something.
8 times 20,000, 160,000.
So, yeah, 8 times.
It's a, because
Yeah, let me check on that.
the quote was talking one tank, that's why I was asking.
Oh, we said one thing? Oh, yeah. So I've converted that into, we've said, in the staff report, we've said 40,000. The recommended motion, we said 40,000, so basically 8 tanks for a period of 5 months.
Okay.
October, November, December, January, February.
I think it would be irresponsible not to do this. I mean, because we're setting ourselves up for $7 million a fine. So
Correct.
Do we
just
have direction
overflows
from
anyway.
the board tonight on this, or
We
do you
have-
have
we have-
direct, do you have the direction you need?
There's a recommended motion, which is.
Yeah, we need a motion to authorize spending up to $40,000 on the
So moved.
6 blue tanks.
Second.
Aye.
8, excuse me.
We all keep falling back to 6, but 8.
Any further discussion?
No. Let's move on.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
8-0, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
very
Keisha.
nice.
Thanks,
Well
guys.
done.
Thank you. Thank you.
That wraps up, well, I think we can do the attorney's reports. Well, while we're here, let's just go ahead and do these real quick. We don't have an acting manager's report. Is there an attorney's report?
Mr. Chairman?
Do any directors have any additional reports?
No.
I see none, so I think we're going to wrap up the open session and move to closed session. Thank you all for